Have you ever signed someone else's name on a permission slip? Or maybe, tweaked a date on a PDF just a little bit? Well, you might actually be surprised to learn what Arizona law calls forgery. Today, we're going to break down the state's forgery statute, ARS 13-2002, and really get into what it is, how it works, and why it's a much bigger deal than you might think. Okay, but before we go any further, we have to get a quick but really crucial disclaimer out of the way. We are exploring this for educational purposes only, and this is absolutely not a substitute for real legal advice. If you are facing any kind of criminal charge under Arizona law, you should speak with an experienced Arizona criminal defense lawyer right away. So here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down what forgery actually is. Then we're going to look at the 3 specific actions that can get you into hot water. We'll also translate some of that key legal jargon, get into the pretty serious consequences, and then wrap it all up by answering some of the most common questions out there. All right, Section 1. Let's start at the very beginning with the foundation of this whole thing. What does the law really mean when it says forgery? Because it's a lot more specific than just faking a signature. Okay. Here it is. This is the most critical part of the entire law, intent to defraud. It's not a crime to just, doodle someone's signature for fun. The crime happens the second you create that fake document because you want to trick someone, to get something you're not entitled to. That specific intent is everything. It's what a prosecutor has to prove. And this stuff isn't just theory. It pops up in the real world all the time. Think about it. Making a fake ID to get into a club, adding a 0 to a check to change $50 to $500, or signing a contract for your roommate without them knowing. All of those could absolutely be forgery under the statute. So, how does a prosecutor actually build a case for forgery? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. They don't have to prove you did the entire scheme from start to finish. They just need to prove you committed one of these 3 core acts. So the law slices the crime into 3 different behaviors. First, you've got the obvious one, actually creating or changing the fake document. But second, and this surprises a lot of people, you can be charged just for having a forged item, as long as you know it's fake. And third, this one is huge, you can be charged just for trying to use it. Even if the bank teller takes one look at the check and says, "No way," the crime has already been committed. The attempt is enough. Words mean everything in the law. So to really get what this statute is about, we need to get super clear on a few key terms. Now, the law makes a really important distinction between acting intentionally and acting knowingly. It might sound like splitting hairs, but it's a big deal. Acting intentionally means you have a specific goal, like you want to defraud the bank. Knowingly is a bit of a lower standard. It just means you were aware of what you were doing, like you knew that ID in your wallet was a fake, even if you didn't have some grand master plan for it. And when you hear the term written instrument, don't just picture a dusty paper contract. The law is way, way broader than that. It covers pretty much anything that proves a fact or has value: cash, legal documents, and, here's the kicker, digital files. A forged PDF, a faked e-signature, it's all treated exactly the same as old-school paper and ink. The law has definitely caught up to our digital world. Okay, so now we get to the part that really drives home why this is taken so seriously: the consequences. And they can be severe. First of all, let's talk about the clock. This isn't some minor offense that just fades away. The state of Arizona has a full 7 years to file forgery charges from the day the crime allegedly happened. That is a very long time for that to be hanging over someone's head. And not all forgery is created equal in the eyes of the law. Most of the time, it's charged as a Class 4 felony. But it can be bumped up to a much more serious Class 3 felony if that fake document was used for something like renting a drop house, which is a property used in human or drug smuggling. And these numbers right here are what really put it all into perspective. A standard Class 4 felony for forgery could mean up to 3 3/4 years in prison. But if it gets elevated to that Class 3 felony, the maximum sentence more than doubles to almost 9 years. We are talking about serious, life-changing consequences. The number of fake documents you have on you is also a huge deal. If police find you with 5 or more forged items, say 5 fake credit cards, the court is allowed to infer that you had them for a reason, to defraud someone. That creates a legal presumption that can be really tough for a defense to argue against. Okay, to wrap this all up, let's go ahead and tackle a few of the most common questions that people have about Arizona's forgery law. This is probably the #1 question we get in today's world, right? Does this old-timey sounding law about forgery actually apply to our digital lives? And the answer is a huge 100% yes. Like we talked about with written instruments, the law sees no difference. Faking a signature on a PDF contract is legally the exact same thing as faking one on a piece of paper. Here's another point that trips a lot of people up: the difference between forgery and fraud. People use them interchangeably, but legally, they are not the same thing.
The easiest way to think about it is this. Fraud is the big umbrella term. It's any crime that involves deception to get something. Forgery is a very specific type of fraud that always, and I mean always, involves a fake document. So you could say all forgery is a type of fraud, but not all fraud involves forgery. So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this right here. The absolute heart of this crime is that combination: a falsified document plus the clear, undeniable intention to deceive someone with it.
And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. In a world where AI can create incredibly realistic documents, pictures, and even signatures with just a click, how is our legal system going to keep up? Proving a person intended to defraud someone could get a whole lot harder when the tools to create perfect fakes are available to absolutely everyone. That's a huge challenge the courts are going to have to face, and probably very soon. Thanks for watching.